Hello, hello, hello. It
Hello.
is Monday. It's Monday, folks. You know what that means?
Yay.
That means it's Moscow Mitch Monday, and we are here live on Facebook. Maybe less live on YouTube, depending on where you watch these things. But we're here with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee, our digital demonstration, making sure everyone knows just how bad Mitch McConnell is and how critical it is that we unelect him in 6 months. So yes, we are the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee, and we are live streaming today to give you a little bit more information, give you a little bit of hope about how we can get rid of Mitch McConnell in just a few short months. We'll do quick intros. So I'm Aaron. I am live streaming to you from Childsburg in Lexington, Kentucky. And my Mitch McConnell protest sign says today, "Hey Mitch, maybe you should try keeping your mouth shut." That's me. Who's next?
I like. I nominate Doug.
All right then.
Hi, I'm Doug Price. I'm Harrison County, Kentucky, originally from Western Kentucky. I think mine will just say, "We will remember you in November."
Kind of an implied threat.
Yeah,
That we
that's a
intend
promise.
to make
That's not a threat.
we intend to make good on that electorally speaking. Hey folks, my name is Nate, coming live and direct at you from South Frankfort, lovely downtown Frankfort, Kentucky. And if I had a sign that I could hoist around, I would say, Mitch doesn't care about you. You should not care about Mitch.
That seems fair. Those are great signs. Thanks, guys. So we want to hear what your signs say. Please add your sign, your slogan. Put it in the comments section here, because again, this is a protest. We would be together somewhere publicly, perhaps outside Mitch's office, and holding these signs, demonstrating against him and his bad policies. But instead, because of COVID and the fact that we are not COVIDiots, we are doing this online. So anyway, we have got a really great show. We've got a lot of fantastic information to cover. We've got some great perspectives that we are going to share with you. But what we're going to touch on now is the new Mitch stories of the week. Every single every single week, Mitch has some new outrage that his horrible politics force us to discuss. So we are here to break it down for you. This week we're touching on his abysmal and irresponsible leadership on the Patriot Act. We're going to touch on whether or not President Obama left a pandemic response plan and whether his mouth should be shut. We'll also discuss whether and how corporations should be treated during a pandemic. After the news roundup, we're going to be joined by Kit, who will be sharing another blistering essay on Mitch's leadership and lack thereof. And after that, we're going to turn it over to Doug in our ongoing segment following Mitch's money. Doug, what are you digging into today?
I'm going to be looking at his personal net worth, he and his wife's net worth, and a little bit of information on the amount of money it takes to run Congress. It's an amazing amount of money if you add it all up, and a discussion related to public service and comparing Mitch's public service to a story about a young man that I was told about several years ago who works for Kentucky state government.
All right. Well, we got that to look forward to. Thank you so much, Doug. Before the news, we've got a few MMRC campaign announcements that we want to share with you. So, get your notepad. There might be some things you want to make note of. Important information from the MMRC. So first, we've got a video project. We are looking for people who were born during any of Mitch's election years for a video project. So that's folks born in 1984, 1990, 1996, 2002, although we did have a few of those thanks to Annabelle Nagel's great work a few weeks ago. And if you're really young and political, if you were born in 2008 and you want to share some views, we think it would be really powerful to highlight the views of folks born in these years who do not know a world where Mitch McConnell is not a senator from Kentucky. So that strikes me as something we need to rectify. These people, need hope. We need to give it to them. But is that you? Is that someone you know? If you are one of these people, reach out to us, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Go ahead, connect to us. If it's someone you know, connect them to us. Just help spread the word. And again, those years, just so you have those in your mind, 1984, 1990, 1996, 2002, and hey, maybe even 2008. But those are the lists of the elections that the years that Mitch McConnell was elected and reelected and reelected again to the U.S. Senate. So, all right. So, second point we wanted to let you know, we are launching a petition to Mitch. So we're using the Move On petition platform to demand a better bipartisan coronavirus response from Mitch, from the U.S. Senate. We're going to point out that the next 6 months give him a unique opportunity, a kind of opportunity to meet the political moment. This is a truly historic moment, and he needs to lead to ensure that city and state aid happens so that there are safe elections in November, that there is responsible corporate behavior in reopening our economy, a testing and tracing protocol for our nation. So this petition argues these things might be more critical than more conservative judges, which at this point, Mitch seems to be thinking is his only legacy worth putting any political time and energy into, more political judges. So we are going to share that petition link in the comments, so you can click on it, you can sign it, you can share it. We think this will be a really important tool to build a unified call to demand more of Mitch. Hope you'll be able to join us there on that one. Another little update. Yes, Nate. Okay, good. So we're going to be taking a break for Memorial Day. So next Moscow Mitch Monday, we are not going to be live streaming. We're going to let folks, enjoy time with the family in your group of 10 or less, socially distanced, getting together for the holiday. But we're going to be back the Monday after, and we're going to be joined again by guest host Denise Gray, who is fantastic. We're looking forward to working with her again. So that'll be June 1st. We might need to adjust our time because actually next June 1st, Monday after next, there will be a Democratic Senate debate. So the three main candidates that are running to replace Mitch on the Democratic ticket, Amy McGrath, Mike Breuer, Charles Booker, they're all going to be on a KET forum having a bit of a debate on June 1st. I think that's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern. But if the timing does not work out for us to be live, we're not going to go, we're not going to compete with the KET forum. We think it's really important information for the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee to watch and consider, but we will figure out a time to live stream sometime in that day. So that's coming up. So a couple things there. And one last announcement before we get into the news. Primary election is coming around the corner. As we just mentioned, there's going to be a debate on June 1st. But before that, May 26th, you need to register to vote. So if you're watching this live stream, you clearly care about politics, or you've just stumbled across this somehow, and you probably won't last very long. But if you are here intentionally, you probably care about politics. You want to make sure you can vote. If things happen, check your registration. We've got a great website. I moved here from another state 2 years ago. I was ready to be underwhelmed by the online voter registration portal for the state of Kentucky, and I was not. I was blown away. It is super easy to use. Go use it. It's govoteky.com. Check your registration right now. Maybe not right now. Maybe in, 50 minutes. Or, you can open up a second tab. That's fine. I trust you. Go ahead. Open up another tab. govoteky.com. Check it right now. Let the dulcet tones of our voices wash over you while you make sure that you are, in fact, ready to vote. So that's happening. Do it. All right. That's all I've got for now. We're instead going to swiftly transition into the news. Mitch in the news. We got a few different things we're going to cover today. I'm actually going to throw it to Nate to start off with, because I think it was one of the most just singularly unimpressive moments in Mitch's campaigning recently. What happened, Nate?
So there he was, the senator that we sort of love to get out of office, and he was on a live stream with, I believe it's Laura Trump, doing a little interview, and during the course of that, he had occasion to take our last president, Obama, to task for having the temerity, the audacity to come out and say that the coronavirus pandemic response right now is sort of chaotic and a disaster, which anyone who is sort of halfway reasonable would have to agree with. But Senator McConnell did not like that because it broke with the tradition of talking about the current office holder. So he claims that, for example, President George W. Bush could have said a lot of mean, nasty things about President Obama, but held back, and showed a modicum of decorum, in that it was sort of a breaking with tradition, So, and the minute I read that, all I could think of was Fiddler on the Roof, tradition, like all the he's got tradition, that old time tradition. Well, folks, how traditional is our senior senator anyway? Come to find out, not really. He's traditional when he wants to pretend he is, but I don't know. Is it traditional to use the filibuster as a cudgel to keep blocking President Obama's initiatives? He apparently set records doing it. It just was really terrible, using that in an unprecedented manner. And he still defends it now. He's still very pro filibuster. Then he politicized the federal court system. He turned the Senate into sort of this tool for either blocking judges from being nominated if the president's name is Obama, or sort of sweeping them in quickly if the president's name is Trump. Again, this is not a traditional way, folks, that you do things in the Senate. So this is very radical, capital R radical. And let me take a second to just say that I've been working off of a wonderful column written by Joe Girth in the Courier journal, and that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. So hats off to Joe for great work there. And then, of course, the greatest break with tradition probably was the fact that he denied Merrick Garland, his day in the Senate to be considered for the Supreme Court. This was in the last year, of course, of President Obama's tenure, 2016. And he made up this thing like, oh, it's the Biden rule. You got to let the people choose, and because this guy's almost a lame duck, it doesn't count. Well, come to find out, this is the same kind of year for President Trump. And, God forbid a Supreme Court judgeship becomes open. He says he's going to, go against himself and just usher in someone else. So, again, traditionalist? No, I don't think so. And then there was this, stop me before I go too long, but, there was this great New Yorker piece recently from Jane Mayer, a profile of our senior senator. And she recounts this story from James Carroll, who overheard a phone call between Senator McConnell and President Obama. And I'm just going to quote this. Quote, McConnell said a couple of words like, yep, okay, and bye, but he never said Mr. President. There was just a total lack of respect even for the office. Now, those of us who've been following Mitch for a while, I'm sorry, Senator McConnell, know how there was no love lost, for the previous president. But again, the office, hello? Aren't you supposed to at least have a modicum of respect for that? So, and then the last thing, finally, if we want to, put the nail in the coffin for whether or not Senator McConnell is a traditionalist, he's sort of thrown up his hands where President Trump's concerned. So he's had so many opportunities to stop Trump in his tracks, from bad legislation to bad nominees for positions. And just this past January, he presided over the impeachment trial, and he could have done things like, I don't know, call some witnesses, conducted in a way that was actually a little bit more fair and impartial, instead of literally consulting with the administration on what to do. So that's sort of the hugest break with tradition that I can imagine. So anyway, suffice it to say, too long didn't read. He's not a traditionalist, and his words have no meaning where tradition is concerned. Over and out.
Right. No, that is, I think, it's remarkable, the hypocrisy, right? It is, I mean, it's like a renewable energy resource is, Mitch's political hypocrisy. Like, we should somehow tap that, because it is never going to run out. Unless, of course, we do what we were aiming to do, which is get rid of him in November. Get him out of office. Because, sure, a lot of folks like to just kind of muddy the waters and talk about all politics is bad, and but Mitch is our kind of politician because he's fighting for us. I don't know what he's fighting. He's fighting for corporations. He's fighting for for their interests, and he's doing everything in his power to get it to you. He will be as hypocritical as he needs to be to make the most of his moment, and jam through whatever agenda he thinks is powerful or important at the moment. So yeah, that was really remarkable. And he was just. In that interview, he was so horrible. It was, saying that the Obama administration didn't leave a pandemic response plan for the White House, which is why, this is all being so poorly managed, right? Give me a break. They left a very significant plan. They, in fact, made in the transition, the Obama administration made them do a tabletop exercise to respond to a pandemic. They, in fact, had a pandemic response office, which Trump promptly got rid of. So the idea that, it was somehow President Obama's fault, I guess that was just something that earlier they threw against the wall, and when the facts didn't bear that out and no one was buying it, they've moved on to blaming China. But the fact that Mitch McConnell didn't get the talking points, the updated talking points, to know that, we should probably acknowledge that, Trump did have a plan that he ignored that was given to him by President Obama. It was horrible. He also went on in that live stream to talk about how Democratic governors are enjoying their power of forcing people to stay home and keeping them from going to church. Like, no one enjoys being the governor or a leader during the pandemic. No one gets a political bump for keeping you from going to work. It is outrageous that they're willing to play politics with this. But that's them. They'll play politics with anything. They'll do it cynically. They'll do it nakedly, and they'll do it for their own interests and not for the public interest. So it is truly it was of course that's one side of Mitch, right? The Laura Trump podcast or live stream or whatever. But then when he's on the local news, he's going to sound every bipartisan, sounding thing he can. He's going to try to, get himself as closely hitched to Governor Andy Beshear's leadership as humanly possible. We just know the truth of it. When he's speaking to his base, he's going to, make everything political, blame the Democrats for everything. When he's here at home, he's going to try to sound as bipartisan as possible, and we just, we got to pierce that bubble. We got to make sure that people know the facts of what McConnell's up to in his, carrying Trump's water. Doug, you got anything on that one?
No, it's just amazing. You talk about him appearing with Beshear in the commercial, if I remember right, and I'm hopeful that he will agree that the states and cities need additional funding through some kind of stimulus money. But I guarantee you when that happens, he's going to promote himself about what a great job he did for Kentucky. He'll be having all kinds of ads about how he took care of Kentucky.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's doing it right now. He's got an opinion piece in the Courier Journal, talking about how great his response is and how he's giving everything that, the state could ever need. It's just garbage. It's just, and again, that's why we launched the petition. It's because his leadership has not been bipartisan. He's not responding to what the public needs and what the states and the cities need. And so we need to call him on it. So please do sign that petition. You should be able to find it in the comments. If not, it'll show up on our Facebook page shortly. But we're going to move on to a second news story. So this was one that's a little bit different. It's where there's clearly a difference politically between Mitch and Rand Paul, right? So Mitch McConnell this last week, and actually this week as well, I think the vote is actually gearing up to be tomorrow or the next day. Mitch is bound and determined to reauthorize the Patriot Act. So, back to some nearly ancient history during the Bush number 2 administration, George W. Bush, after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, they forced through a massive expansion of federal surveillance power, very significant undermining of our rights. And this is where there's kind of the unique far right, far left coalition where everyone's like, these are horrible moves that we've given the government rather. If you remember Snowden, a lot of that was exposing the amazing amount of surveillance was happening. The federal government was forcing surveillance on just average, everyday citizens. So Ron Wyden, a senator from Oregon, has been bound and determined to change the Patriot Act to get rid of some of the most egregious overreaches there, and specifically the ability of the FBI, the Department of Justice, to look at your online histories if they say that it's related to any sort of a investigation. They can cast a very wide net. They don't need a warrant. And it's something that has been a very significant concern for the civil liberties folks for quite a while. And the irony is that, of course, you've got Trump with Obamagate, which he can't tell you what Obamagate is, but it's something about how he was investigated very early, and it was not fair. And poor Carter Page, who, pretty much everyone thought was a useful idiot to the Russians, the fact that he was being surveilled and, parts of Trump's campaign were being looked at. They said it's Obama trying to end his political career, his political campaign, which is, flies on its face. It's the most outrageous thing, because if they had that information, why wouldn't they have told us before the election, right? But at any rate, it's a very deep conspiracy. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it too carefully, but don't worry about it, because that's not what they're asking you to do. But at the same time, they're complaining about this overreach of the FBI investigation. Mitch McConnell is trying to jam through a reauthorization of the most egregious elements of the Patriot Act. So what we saw last week, and it'll be picked up again this week. We've got Ron Wyden, who's the kind of left side of that right-left coalition, trying to weaken the Patriot Act to give our civil liberties back to us, make sure that warrants are involved if the federal government is looking at us for something. Here's his quote. McConnell is increasing Barr's oversight. That's Bill Barr, the Attorney General, the Trump lackey, the individual who seems to basically be a political animal working to expand executive power and protect Trump from all enemies, foreign or domestic. Mostly he's concerned about the domestic ones, though. So we've got McConnell is increasing Barr's oversight of surveillance on political candidates while expanding surveillance authorities on every other American. This is an amendment that Mitch McConnell ended up offering to reauthorize the Patriot Act. Senator Ron Wyden said that Barr, who's been deeply involved in investigations of interest to Trump, could authorize an investigation into a political rival, which could then unlock the internet spy powers McConnell wants to grant the FBI. He continues, under the McConnell amendment, Barr gets to look through the web browsing history of any American, including journalists, politicians, and political rivals, without a warrant, just by saying it's relevant to an investigation. And so that's what we're faced with right now. So if you are somebody who really likes Rand Paul, I mean, again, you're probably not here on this live stream, but if somehow, somebody shares it with you, you might want to, really go after Mitch McConnell, because this is not in keeping with, your idea of limited government. This is incredibly expansive abilities for the government to, dig deep into your computer history, your browser history, your search history, all in the idea of, oh, it's an investigation. Sure, we don't have a warrant for this investigation, but you just trust us. It's an important investigation. So, if it's the kind of political hypocrisy, Mitch McConnell writ large. You talk about draining the swamp. this guy's the swamp monster, and he's working awfully hard to protect that institutional power in Washington, D.C., and even with the FBI in here. So that's something that I think is offensive and something we really do need to look at and hold him accountable for. Anyone have any other thoughts on that issue?
Yeah, it's just un-American. I mean, when you hear about a government getting granted powers to look into people's digital devices, I mean, that's what you hear about in China, you know? I mean, and not just in China, but I mean, they're like the poster child for the heavy hand of government just looking into people's digital lives. So it's again, just to tie it back to my little tirade, it's not a traditional kind of thing for either a Democrat or a Republican to do it. But I guess it is a traditional thing to do if you're kind of into Chinese autocracy, say. So, go Mitch.
Well, you know, he's in bed with China. Let's just say it. It is literally true in this case.
My goodness. Wow.
Do you ever think about that?
And if
you think about that, Nate? What you got, Doug? I froze you all, didn't I? Like, totally shocked you. Like, what did he just say?
That's okay. So if that is authorized and the feds are looking at my Google searches, and one of the words that they look for is Mitch or McConnell, man, I'm in deep trouble.
Oh yeah,
because that's about all I do these days.
We are putting ourselves in harm's way by engaging in this sort of, you know, resistance to the sitting power of Mitch McConnell. All right, so we've got one more story we want to touch on before we bring in Kit for their essay. But I did want to just touch on this idea that I think we have discussed it a bit in the past, but it's Mitch's red line. Again, which seems appropriate. Moscow Mitch should have a red line, right? It is about how they will bring more recovery dollars from the federal government to those who need it as we dig ourselves out of this coronavirus pit that we're in. He, of course, has said very famously that states should just go bankrupt. And that one, pretty much landed with a thud. but I don't think he gives up on anything. I think that was one of his kind of key negotiating points. But that if you remember, he wants to pair that negotiating point with something that he wants, right? And that what he wants is this kind of blanket immunity for corporations as they reopen. He wants to make sure that corporations can, cut corners. And if they, don't really abide by the guidance, or it turns out the guidance really isn't protective enough, the guidance from states or the federal government, he wants to make sure that corporations are never held accountable for any, bad decisions that they make. And that's something that we think is, look, corporations have an awful lot of power. Mitch McConnell wants to give them more power, as much power as they can possibly, hold. He wants to give it to them. He doesn't trust the people, and this is one of those kind of key words. If you listen for it, you'll know when Mitch is arguing for an expansion of corporate power. That's when he brings in the greedy trial lawyers, right? So that old the greedy trial lawyers. We're just trying to stop those greedy trial lawyers. The greedy trial lawyers that make sure that when semi-trucks run you over, they're held accountable. The greedy trial lawyers that make sure when your waterway is poisoned and the state or federal agencies have all looked the other way because they're all paid off, you have a chance to fight that corporation in court, right? So it truly is one of our last refuges in our ability to fight for our own rights is those greedy trial lawyers. And so when Mitch starts throwing around that term, you should usually perk up and pay close attention to what he's talking about, because right now he's saying corporations should be able to force you back to work, and if it's not safe because they didn't take the necessary steps and you get sick, you should not ever be able to hold them accountable, right? So the idea that corporations are already so protected, the fact that they need a special carve out for coronavirus is a bit absurd, and it's a bit offensive, but it's that's Mitch. If there's a political opportunity to expand the rights of corporations, whether it's Citizens United or whether it's the coronavirus, Mitch is going to grab that opportunity and make the most of it. And he'll probably throw in a tax break for them at some point if he can. So, that's one thing I would say. Just keep a very close eye on what Mitch is up to. I think this one is a very problematic effort, and it's one that's not going to go away. Again, when he uses language like red line, it's not talking about his communist, sympathies. He's talking about whether he's going to let anything go. And as we've talked about a number of times, he is the single most powerful senator. He is quite possibly the single most powerful, member of Congress. And if he wants something and he thinks there's political, advantage to getting it, he can dig in and make it happen. So we've got to hold him accountable on this one. It's one of the key points in our petition. So again, sign that petition, add your name, share it with your friends and family, anyone who's done with Mitch. Go ahead and build a big, huge army of people demanding better leadership for Mitch McConnell in his hopefully final 6 months in office. Guys, do you have any thoughts on the blanket immunity for corporations?
I think that Kentucky voters would rather risk greedy trial lawyers than the reality of their greedy senior senator.
That seems fair.
The corporations have the money, and Mitch loves money.
It can be as simple as that, really. Hey, I did want to point out, if you're offended by the Patriot Act expansion, we do have a graphic that we put on our Facebook page. You can find it there. You can share it. You can like it. You can comment on it. Again, we don't think that Mitch should make sure that Bill Barr gets to shoulder surf your internet activity without a warrant. So please do share that news. This is the one I think. Yes, I'm sure a lot of our friends and family know that we're liberal and know that we don't like Mitch McConnell. But the more you share this stuff out there, there are these kind of overlapping, there are moments of overlap in these circles. I think this is an issue that has overlap that we should share because it can get a whole new, segment of folks aware that Mitch's, kind of adherence to power and commitment to power at the expense of our civil rights is something that, is worth fighting over. So that's what we've got for Mitch in the news. Really exciting stories this week. Please don't just let that outrage sit with you. Use it to empower you, and let's see some action. Now we're very, very excited that we're joined by Kit O'Connor, and we've got a new essay coming from this founding member and partner of Nate. So, hey, thanks so much for joining us, Kit. And I'm just going to let you take it away. All right.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much. And thanks, Doug and Nate as well. And just a total aside, I am loving the fact that we all have big hair here on the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. It means we are being healthy at home. And so I think that that's pretty amazing. And Aaron, you alluded to this earlier before I even get started. When I offered to do, when I said, hey, can I do this little essay thing, every couple weeks or so? And it was funny. I was like, wow, well, maybe, just maybe I'll run out of things to say. But alas, as I like to say, Mitch never lets me down in letting me down. There is always something to say. So.
Yeah, if you're paying attention, if you're paying attention, there's always a new outrage. It's truly amazing.
There is always a new outrage. So anyhow, last week or a couple of weeks ago, my word was flummoxed. I was flummoxed. Today I have a question, and the question that I have today is: does Mitch McConnell care about his constituents? Me being one of them. So here goes. I wrote a thing. Currently, the coronavirus pandemic has killed over 90,000 Americans, including over 330 here in Kentucky. The unemployment rate in the United States was at 14.7% in April, and just last Thursday, Senator McConnell's hometown paper, the Pulitzer Prize-winning Courier-Journal, shout out for the Courier-Journal, reported that unemployment in Kentucky was close to 40%. That's 40%. Obviously, two issues of paramount importance are health care and making ends meet right now. Does Senator McConnell want his constituents to have access to health care? Does he want them to have enough money to pay rent and put food on the table? People need to be healthy, and they need to be safe. They also need to trust that when someone else goes to work, that they too are safe and healthy. We need to trust this not only because we're good, caring people who want to see each other out of harm's way, but also because we don't want others to spread illness to our own loved ones. That has never been more clear than it is now, and yet Senator McConnell has tried to destroy the Affordable Care Act and take away people's health care over and over again. Why? The second issue is financial assistance. Recently, Senator McConnell said that states can go bankrupt rather than have access to aid. He blamed the blue states, but it would also affect his home state, us here in Kentucky. No aid would mean cuts to teachers, firefighters, the police, and the very frontline people that we've been calling heroes. Fast forward a week and a half, the House of Representatives passed another stimulus bill last Friday that would provide aid to local governments and payment to the public, those very Kentuckians who need it. But, as reported by Politico yesterday, and I quote, "Senators are expected to consider a handful of lifetime judicial appointments this week and then head home for Memorial Day recess," end quote. They won't be considering the stimulus bill. Once again, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the person responsible for scheduling the Senate's daily legislative program, is going out of his way to turn his back on you and me. Over and over again, I hear of food banks being overwhelmed with lines of cars waiting for help. I hear of small businesses closing. I see my neighbors pleading with us to order from local restaurants to help them stay in business. But, according again to Politico, and I quote again, the Kentucky Republican says he doesn't yet feel the urgency to spend more money after Congress has delivered nearly $3 trillion in aid. Good sir. Really? Not only that, but the New York Times reported recently that Senator McConnell is insisting that there will be no more stimulus, no more money for anyone until businesses get immunity from liability during this pandemic. He is insisting that employers be shielded from liability if their workers contract the coronavirus. In other words, you have to go to work, but if your employer is haphazard with protecting your safety from contracting the coronavirus in your workplace, you cannot hold them liable. Is Senator McConnell more concerned with protecting businesses from his constituents than he is from protecting those constituents from these businesses? Honestly, Kentucky, does our senior senator even care about his constituents? And if the answer is yes, then we deserve what we get, or, I posit, don't get. But if the answer is no, then let's demand that he do so. We deserve representation that actually cares about us. Love, Kit.
Hey, so it's been quiet. Just a little dead air. That's all. It's a little dead air between friends. I think if you remember, if you saw, I did in fact promise that there would be some technological mishaps. So, as promised, we deliver here at the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. We are not going to undersell or give you just bonus problems. All right, so I do apologize. That was a fantastic essay. Very glad that Kit shared that with us. And again, as we watch what's happening in Washington D.C., I think it's a pretty jam-packed schedule that Mitch has this week in the Senate. Railroad jammed through a reauthorization of the Patriot Act so that the federal government can see our internet history without a warrant. He also has more judges. He's got to get some more judges approved and sat so that he can guarantee his political legacy of doing more than any single human to reshape the federal judiciary to fight for corporate interests. Sound good? Everyone fired up?
No.
All right. So we've got our work cut out for us, folks. Again, less than 6 months to go to this election. Let's make sure that we work our tails off to get rid of Mitch McConnell in November. And one of the ways we're going to be able to do that is just more information. We need to know what works, what's the information that is required to get people to shake off their apathy and get to the polls. This year, it's going to be a little more challenging. There's going to be this threat of coronavirus out there. Who's going to want to go queue up in long lines to, risking their health to vote? And a lot of people, again, probably not you, because you found your way to this live stream. You care about politics. But I bet you know a lot of folks who don't, and who think it's ridiculous and a waste of time, but both sides are horrible, so why does it even matter who we elect? We know that these things absolutely matter, and that their side basically banks on people not caring about the political process. Because their side, those who care about corporate power, they really are outnumbered by our side, the folks who want to see some checks on corporate power, and we want to see a government that stands up for real people. We win on the numbers. It's just a matter of getting folks mobilized into the polls. So, again, we need more information to make this happen. I'm very excited today that we have another episode, another segment, our Following Mitch's Money, where Doug Price is going to share with us what exactly Mitch has been up to in some of his financial dealings. And so we're going to throw it over to Doug Price to take it away with Following Mitch's Money.
All right. Thanks, Kit, Aaron, and Nate. I'm happy to be here and talk about what I'm working on now. As he said, I've been tasked with providing a weekly segment on Mitch and money. Today, we're going to talk about Mitch's net worth, plus tie that in with some other issues. A couple years ago, I researched Senator McConnell's net worth because several people had posted on social media that his net worth had increased exponentially over the years on his salary. The figure quoted on social media seemed to indicate that he had increased his net worth through nefarious means. So I did what I do. I investigated and determined that while he is the 7th or 8th richest senator in the Senate, a big chunk of his net worth came about due to an inheritance from his wife's father, James Chow. His net worth is estimated to be just under $40 million. He and his wife own a house in Louisville and a 3,000 square foot home in Washington, D.C., an old historic home built in 1890. According to Open Secrets, the Center for Responsive Politics, he has no debts. And speaking of money and Mitch, his Senate campaign committee has raised approximately $29.5 million and has $15.6 million on hand. Given that he has several candidates after his job, I expect the June totals will raise these much higher. He will be desperate to retain his Senate seat and will pull out all the stops to try to win, parentheses, by the election. I can only imagine the phone calls to anybody he has ever helped. I guarantee you it will not be to me or folks like me. Money, money, money is the key. To break down his net worth a little bit further, the 2008 gift from the father-in-law was estimated to be $25 million. So without that amount, he would still have an estimated net worth of $15 million, which is a pretty good chunk of change for someone who has been in quote unquote public service for the last 40 plus years. His congressional salary over the years totals almost $6 million. I'm guessing he had to pay taxes on this amount, unless of course he used Trump's tax attorneys. He had living expenses, so one could wonder how he has been able to increase his net worth to $15 million, excluding the gift. When Mitch first became a senator, his salary was $75,000 a year. At that time, the federal minimum wage computed to an annual salary of $7,000. Let that sink in. The amount each senator receives to run their various offices range from 3 million to 5.1 million. I expect Mitch is on the top end. House members receive an average of 1.3 million. There are 435 House members, 100 senators. So just do the math on that, how much money is spent, not just in salaries and wages, but in running offices. Have we entered the realm of what the heck yet? His current salary is $193,400. His wife makes $199,700. The current federal minimum wage computes to $15,080. The poverty level is $12,760. Has Mitch McConnell ever voted for an increase in the minimum wage? Will he ever vote for an increase in the minimum wage? Speaking of voting, here's an interesting tidbit. Mitch has been in the Senate so long, he has made 11,432 votes. Think of how many votes he would have if he allowed legislation from the House of Representatives to be voted on in the Senate. Just thinking out loud, wonder if Mitch might have funds in other places. All members of Congress are required to report any and all financial information, but some wealthy people have been known to have funds in countries that are very secretive about their customers. Perhaps it's just a matter of Mitch has just been very astute about investing. I'd like to tie into a story I heard from a couple whose son had started to work for Kentucky state government about 10 years ago. The only raise their son had received during that time was the raise one receives after your 6-month probationary period. That is what public service means in Kentucky. Could Mitch help raise this through legislation to raise the minimum wage? Can he claim to be involved in public service? He controls the Senate. He controls whether or not anything from the House gets consideration. Along the way, he barters, trades, and pushes his agenda for America. Is his agenda for America what is best for America? I think not. It is time to retire Mitch on November 3rd, 2020. Back to you, Aaron and Nate.
Wow. That was really powerful, Doug. Thank you so much for that research and putting that all together for us. So he got a $25 million gift from his father-in-law?
Yes, that was what is estimated on the financial disclosures. You don't have to show the exact amount, but you put ranges. So it was estimated to be 25 million.
Wow.
That happened in 2008.
Wow. Well, all I get from my in-laws is Fox News talking points. So, I think he's definitely one up me on that. But he had 15 million. Somehow he'd parlayed his public servant salary into a $15 million chunk of change. Very impressive. Very astute money management. I wonder how many kind of Bill Burr moments he had before that was against the rules. Crazy. This is just crazy. Yeah, Mitch McConnell does not understand the needs of working Kentuckians. He is in a whole different stratosphere of financial resources and political and financial capital. It's truly staggering. Any thoughts on that? What you've just learned, Nate? Did we lose your audio? We can't hear you.
Sorry. How about now?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that it just goes to show how out of touch he is. I mean, he happens to be from the bluegrass state, and so it ends up representing it. But really, he's a creature of Washington, D.C., and he's not, just as we've heard, he is so unlike the regular Kentuckian that it's almost like he's from another planet,
Yeah.
And I would rather have someone from my own planet represent me in the Senate.
Seems fair. Seems like a legitimate request. Somebody who's not a swamp monster. That would be great.
Not a regular Earth.
Regular Earthling. All right, so that's what we got today for most of the show. Just going to do a quick touch base on a few other things. So just remember, as we are looking at the next couple of weeks, we will not be going live next Monday. Enjoy your Memorial Day. But what we are going to be doing is in that time, hopefully getting a lot of traction on that petition. So we've just launched that Move On petition. You can be probably one of the top, first 10 people to sign it if you act right now, because it's just gone live. Hopefully, we can build a little momentum, get Move On to share it with some of their supporters, build a larger megaphone to demand better. Make sure that city and state aid comes our way, right? Without that bright red line of corporate blanket immunity. So this is, I think, a really important way for us to demand better of Mitch. We can sound off on our Facebook Live all we want. He is likely not going to hear this, but if we can unify our voices and get it to a petition, get on a petition, get it to his office, he's going to at least have to, some intern's going to have to look at those numbers, and we can then follow up with it, additional pressure points. And again, just because we aren't going to be live next Monday doesn't mean it won't be Moscow Mitch Monday. It's still Moscow Mitch Monday right now. When we're done here, head on over to his Facebook page, make a few comments, share a few images, tasteful images. All I'm saying is, we've got some great graphics that we put on our Facebook page. There's other fantastic ones out there. You can always just go to the Mitch as a turtle. That's always fun. But I think, critiquing his specific policies and what he's been up to is really important right now. What we know is that they think, the Republicans think that the winning strategy is to blame China for the coronavirus. That's what's happening right now. I think that's ridiculous. The coronavirus, came from China, certainly, came from a Chinese bat, probably, but it's been here for a very long time. And the, 70 days that the White House didn't do anything except for ignore Trump's daily warnings to get in front of this and to stop listening to China, that's what put us in this hole. And that's why we have, this staggering amount of coronavirus impacts in our state, or in our nation, rather, despite the fact that we are supposedly, the most advanced country on the face of the planet, or whatever, exceptionalism, the Trump administration would like to tell us. They've dropped the ball. Mitch McConnell's in D.C. He's the leader of the Senate. He dropped the ball because he did not lead our way out of this coronavirus crisis, and we're stuck in it right now. We need that support for states. We need the support for cities. These budgetary holes that they're dealing with means they're going to have to furlough workers. They're going to have to furlough people who are delivering the services that we desperately need in this historic time of crisis. So let's make sure that we hold them accountable. Sign that petition. Share that petition. And a reminder that before you see us again, you need to go check out your voter registration and make sure it's up to date. Right. So if you want to vote in the primary. And there's a lot of important, elections. If you're kind of like me and you're just ready to vote for whoever takes on Mitch McConnell, that doesn't mean you should sit out the primary. There are some great races happening, so definitely go out there and make sure that you are registered to vote. Your voting information is up to date. Go vote KY.com. You need to do that by May 26th to make sure your stuff happens. And then you're going to need to actually request a absentee ballot. If you're like me, they're going to send you out a notice saying you can request an absentee ballot if you want to vote by mail. You can also do that stuff online as well. But I think there's I got an email from the Fayette County Democrats today, and they're giving us the 3 R's to make sure we're able to vote in June 25th. Register, request, and return. So make sure you register, make sure you request your ballot, and then when you get your ballot, send it back. You have to return it. So yeah, that is Go Vote Kentucky, govoteky.com. We'll redirect you to the Secretary of State website. So anything from you guys on this stuff?
And don't forget, if you feel inclined and you have any time and you want to write a letter to the editor describing exactly why Senator Mitch McConnell is so bad for Kentucky, You can go to our website, retirementformitch.com/LTE. LTE stands for Letters to the Editor. And there you'll find a long list that our own Doug Price has lovingly and wonderfully compiled that'll set you up with the correct contact to your local newspaper where you can send your letter. Please do it as soon as possible.
Absolutely. That's a great way to get your views out there, get our views out there, get these talking points out there about how Mitch's agenda it hurts our Commonwealth. That is something people need to see every time they open up the newspaper. And Doug can't do it alone. He's been in, I think, 4 newspapers so far. But it's time for us the rest of this committee, and that's you if you're watching this live stream, unless you're the intern from Mitch McConnell's office that's been forced to do it. Sorry about that, buddy. But yeah, definitely make sure that that our voices are heard, and they're going to be heard if there are more of us sounding off. So do it whatever forum you can take advantage of. Send it to your county newspaper. The lovingly curated list of county newspaper contacts brought to you by Doug Price. And I think I forgot something, Doug. I'm sorry. I queued something up to have it ready as we were hearing about Mitch, and I was just so enthralled by your essay that I didn't even pull it up. This is my favorite billboard in all of Kentucky, brought to us by the Mad Dog Pack, which just puts it pretty simply. Hard to ignore that message. Mitch and Elaine are doing great. How you?
Mm-hmm.
A whole different stratosphere.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, any closing thoughts that folks want to share before we boogie on out of here?
Just one thing briefly, thinking about Mitch and money. I'm working on a couple of things, and I know it's going to be a couple of weeks before we get together again. But earlier I reported on contributions from PACs and that sort of thing. What I hope to come up with in the next one, perhaps, is contributions from Kentuckians, personal type things, and maybe by category, attorneys, or whatever. So I'm working on that, and also looking at an essay or paper or whatever on McConnell's Scholar Program. And if anybody out there has an idea of something they want me to take a look at, just post it on our Facebook page. Hey, Doug, do this, and I'll see what I can do.
That's great. Yeah, more hands make light work, right? This committee has a core group of volunteers who are putting time into it every week. But again, it's an all-volunteer campaign. And if you've got a little bit of time and a little bit of passion, get in contact. We would love to have your help. We do a Saturday morning Zoom where we get together and talk through what we want to work on. If you've got some graphic design skills, please, you can help us make graphics. I am not good at it, but I will keep doing it because we need to get those talking points out there. If you are, politically fired up and want to just learn a little bit more about our political process, I'm sure Doug has some ideas about research projects we could take on. It's so critical that we get that information out there and that we share it with our neighbors and our family and our friends via social media, via, socially distanced conversations. Whatever it is, we got to put that money, the messages out there. Fox News does a fantastic job of getting the talking points out. We do not have an equivalent at the national level. I truly believe that MSNBC is not the same. They do not drive talking points for Democrats the way that Fox News does for Republicans. That's probably good for their journalistic standards, but it's not good for our ability to have a good kind of ability to share that information. It's up to us to disseminate it. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in, for wanting to hear this information. Quick reminder, we do have that video project that I'm really excited about. So if you were born in 1984, 1990, 1996, 2002, or maybe 2008, and if you want to demand a Mitch-free future, get in contact with us. Let us know. Just put a comment down either on the live stream or on our Facebook page or in the Facebook group, or you can tweet at us. We are not hard to find. You can contact us through the website. We are desperate to get your engagement on this campaign, people. So come on, let's do it. Let's step up. Anything else people want to talk about before we let everyone get back to their evening?
No, just see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, folks. So we're going to have a very exciting Memorial Day, socially distanced, 6 feet away, people. And just in case you had not heard, this song was not just pulled from the internet. This song was written, handcrafted, lovingly created by Nate Orson. So we have got, this is an original composition that we're boogieing out to.